Hello and welcome back to Life on the Wrist. Today we are going to be looking at a fourth series of the reference 386 manufactured by Bulova in 1968. Along the collector's journey, many find themselves fixating on collecting dive watches for many reasons, and it really makes perfect sense. Firstly, they can be incredibly attractive once we have the focus on this watch, both on and off the wrist. They are generally well-fitting and extremely legible given the design of these pieces. Being manufactured as tools, they are also produced in a very robust manner, and so collectors can wear them really at any time. They're also generally of the size that fit most wrists and fit into sort of the typical style of watches that people are wearing in today's environments. A brand that produced these types of watches exceptionally well was Bulova. Bulova was founded in 1875 by Joseph Bulova in New York City. They produced many exceptional timekeepers during their history, including the first fully electronic watch that used tuning fork technology. But in the 1960s, they really took off with producing watches that could go, do, and be worn everywhere. The important factor for these watches was the 666 feet waterproof rating. What's really cool is this isn't the first time a 666-foot Bulova was shown on Life on the Wrist. In July 2022, a reference 386-1 made its way onto the website and the YouTube channel. The watch today follows the same sort of lineage of the 386 reference. However, this one is a -4 model, 3 versions after the 386-1. Moving back to the 660-foot depth-rated Bulovas, some collectors have nicknamed these watches Devil Divers, given the connotation of the number 666. But what is very exciting about these watches is the incredible variety of them. Bulova had so many different versions of these watches, including the deep-sea chronograph and dive watches similar to this 386 reference. There are also versions of these dive watches that had white dials, and I think the variety of these are really incredible. So I think one of the big questions is, what is the reference 386? What you have is a very well manufactured and attractive stainless steel dive watch. This Bulova was manufactured in 1968 according to the M8 stamp on the caseback. Bulova uses a combination of letters and numbers to describe the year in which their watches were manufactured. The 35mm stainless steel case is in fairly good condition. There are signs of wear, as you can easily see on the caseback of this watch. And there are also some signs of light polishing if you look at the lugs, where they are a little bit they have somewhat softer corners. The lugs are long and thick and relatively flat. If you look at it from the profile, it does slant somewhat towards the wrist. The watch also has a steel dive bezel, which is in fairly good condition. Looking at other versions of the reference 386, the numbers on the bezel are typically black, so it's likely that the black paint has come off over time. It's a bidirectional bezel, so if you if you take the watch and then you want to move it around, you'll hear it sort of click into place. My hands are a little bit, there we go, you can see. There we go. So bidirectional bezel. That is as I mentioned, black paint has likely come off. If we look at the crown of the watch, what you'll see is that it has a signed Bulova crown, which is likely original to this watch. I'll just try and get the focus there. There you go. And I think the details of this watch really come to life when you start examining the dial that is out of focus right now. There you go. Once you start examining the dial, the black dial of this watch has really aged almost perfectly, along with the tritium lume on the hour markers that are fat and creamy. The dial is really the type of dial that collectors sort of dream of when it comes to these types of watches. The black dial has aged really like a fine bottle of wine, and the lume matches across all surfaces, which I think is extremely attractive. The watch has a red seconds hand, which stands out nicely against the black backdrop, but and then it has this date window at 3 o'clock. It's a non-quick set date window, so you have to elapse time in order to change. Turning over the watch, you'll see this really nice case back image that describes the waterproof case of this reference 386. Of course, given the waterproof rating on the dial, the watch is waterproof to 666 feet of depth. If one removes the case back, additional details about the watch can be discovered. The case back is stamped with stainless steel, describing the case metal, Swiss, describing the production country, and 386-4, which is the reference number for this watch. The caseback is also stamped with M8, as I mentioned previously in this video, which describes the production year of 1968. The last stamp is MLB. Despite researching this detail, the meaning of this has been somewhat elusive. So if you are aware of the meaning of MLB, please write to us. And if you want to see that stamp, please head over to the article we wrote about this watch on our website. There'll be a link in the description of this video where you'll be able to see images of the inside case back and movement. Turning to the watch's movement, the watch runs on the caliber 11 AFAC. The movement is stamped with BXW, which is import code. This was the import code used by Bulova to import watches from their factories in Biel, Switzerland to the USA market. Very similar to how brands like Longines and many brands who operate in the US sort of operated during this time period. As I mentioned, at 35 millimeters, the watch really fits nicely on the wrist and is a great example of something that fits, a vintage watch that sort of fits into the general size of watches that people are wearing these days. I think it's a nice everyday watch in size, very, very legible, as dive watches always are, and of course aged wonderfully. Vintage dive watches really fit into today's world of watch wearing. They typically have really great proportions and are extremely legible. These characteristics might feel a bit routine, so the added flavor of a nicely aged dial does these vintage dive watches wonders. Hope you enjoyed taking a look at this reference 386, the fourth series of this Bulova 666 feet dive watch. I think this is, as I mentioned, I think this is an incredible piece if you are looking for something that can be worn sort of every day. I think it's sometimes tricky when you're looking at vintage watches, but you want to have pieces that are on your wrist that sort of fit with the contemporary watches of today. And of course, that really is why many collectors are attracted to dive watches, is because generally the proportions of the pieces sort of fit in a little bit more with watches that are being manufactured in 2024. Although I wear I'm okay wearing smaller pieces on the wrist. For example, last week we covered a Longines that I think is only 26 millimeters in diameter. I wear that every single day though. Anyway, a really beautiful piece. As I mentioned in the video, we have an article about this specific piece. So if you want to see additional details of this watch, for example, the pictures of the movement or the inside case back of this piece, be sure to head over to that article. It'll be the first link in the description of this video. And you can also read a little bit more about this piece if you head over to lifeonthewrist.com. Let me know what you think about this piece in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I also, have a sort of a question for today. Do you own a Bulova dive watch? I think these watches are so approachable, and I think that's something that makes them very, very popular among collectors. If you are new to Life on the Wrist, be sure to subscribe to the channel and share this video with a friend. If you wouldn't mind liking this video, it really does help me out as well. With that said, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and until next time.